They thought they could bully me like anyone else on the block. Just another quiet homeowner they could push around with their smug letters and veiled threats. But what the HOA didn't know when they tried to tow my legally parked car was that I'm not just some guy with a garage and a mortgage. I'm a career cop who knows every inch of the state vehicle code. And I was the one who helped write the very parking ordinances they were trying to use against me, which meant they didn't just pick the wrong fight. They picked the worst possible one. And by the time I was done, they didn't just lose. They got exposed for years of shady tactics, power games, and straight-up illegal behavior that no one had dared to challenge until now. It all started on a Thursday morning when I walked out to take my kid to school and saw a tow truck idling in front of my driveway, already halfway hooked up to my unmarked service vehicle, a plain black SUV with tags and paperwork all in order, parked exactly where it had been every night for the last 5 years. Never once ticketed, never blocked a fire lane, never even touched a neighbor's driveway. But suddenly the driver, looking nervous, avoiding eye contact, told me the HOA had reported the vehicle as abandoned and hazardous to the visual appeal of the community and was forcing immediate removal. I asked for the violation number, the notice of hearing, any kind of documented prior warning, and of course, there was nothing, just a phone call from the HOA president, Don Ellsworth, a retired dentist with a love of golf carts and an ego bigger than his front lawn, who had taken it upon himself to start cleaning up the neighborhood by targeting anyone who didn't fit his vision of suburban perfection. And my SUV, slightly dusty, a little more rugged than the sea of sedans, on our block, was suddenly his next victim. I calmly told the tow truck driver to unhook the vehicle unless he wanted to be complicit in an unlawful seizure of private property, and he left rattled, but not before warning me that the HOA had a list of cars they were planning to remove, with or without notice. And that's when I realized this wasn't about me. It was about control, intimidation, and unchecked power being used to bully residents into submission. So I did what I was trained to do: investigate, document, and prepare for court. But more than that, I made it personal. I requested every HOA meeting minute from the past year, every tow-related complaint, every budget line referencing enforcement, and found something disturbing. Don had been pushing through vehicle visibility policies in closed sessions, bypassing required community votes, and had secretly contracted his cousin's towing company without disclosing the conflict of interest, funneling thousands in HOA funds into a shady deal that violated not only HOA bylaws, but possibly state consumer protection laws as well. I wasn't just angry. I was on fire with purpose, because I knew every trick in the book, and I wasn't going to let these self-important paper tyrants harass another resident without a fight. So I started talking to neighbors, going door to door, asking if they'd been threatened about parking within a week. I had a folder thick with testimonies. Single moms fined for parking in front of their own homes. Elderly couples warned for non-compliant vehicle aesthetics. Even a veteran who'd been ticketed for keeping a service trailer in his driveway during a remodel. And none of them had ever gotten formal hearings or proper notices, just threats, fines, and escalating fees that hit their mailboxes like grenades. I brought it all to the next HOA meeting, packed house, standing room only. And when Don tried to shut me down during the public comment period, I laid down my badge on the podium, not to flex, but to make it absolutely clear that I knew exactly where the lines of legality were drawn, and that they had crossed every single one. I read out code sections, presented my compiled evidence, revealed the financial connection between Don and the towing company, and when I called for an immediate audit of the board's decisions and a freeze on all enforcement actions, the crowd erupted into applause like I'd never heard in a town hall meeting before. But Don wasn't going quietly. He stormed out that night, red-faced and fuming. And the very next morning, I received a letter citing me for threatening behavior. and recommending a special vote to revoke my membership privileges in the HOA. But the momentum had already shifted. Neighbors began rallying, forming a watchdog group we called the Driveway Defenders, launching a petition not only to throw out the towing policy, but to demand Don's immediate removal from the board. And within 2 weeks, we had over 200 signatures, enough to call for a special election under our bylaws. Local news caught wind of the controversy after someone leaked a recording of the HOA meeting online. And suddenly, Don and his board were under public scrutiny. They couldn't spin away from when Channel 5 interviewed me on my front lawn. I didn't gloat. I told the truth. This was never about parking. It was about people being afraid to speak up because they thought the rules were being written in ink when in fact they were written in sand, and no one had bothered to stand up and say, "This isn't right," until now. By the time the special election rolled around, not only was Doan voted out in a landslide, but 3 other board members resigned the same night, and the newly formed board led by longtime residents who actually cared about the community repealed the abusive vehicle policy, terminated the towing contract, and initiated a full third-party audit of all HOA activities from the past 5 years. My car never moved from its usual spot, not because I won some big legal victory in court, but because I knew the system better than they did and refused to be intimidated. And now, every time I pull into my driveway and see my neighbors wave or give me a quiet nod, I remember that sometimes it only takes one person with the right knowledge and the courage to act not with fists, but with facts to flip the script on power-hungry bullies and remind a whole community that the rules only work when they're fair and when those who enforce them are held accountable.